Revealed, 10 incredible life-changing lessons that will unexpectedly transform your mind forever. Jamie stood behind the counter of the diner, a beacon of faded red booths and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. It should have been just another day at Jodie's diner, the heart of their small Midwestern town. Yet, the weight of loss hung in the air heavy enough to silence the laughter that usually echoed off the walls. Her father, a decorated veteran known to everyone as a stalwart figure, emptied the world of light when he passed away. Now, at only 24, Jamie felt as though the world was both her home and her burden, and as she flipped pancakes, the laughter from the county fair, a distant memory, layered on her heart like a thick fog. Yet, through the heaviness, she often recalled something her dad used to say: "Never give up on what really matters." Those words echoed in her mind as she stirred the pancake batter. But with mounting bills and the pressures of keeping the diner and her family afloat, hope felt distant, a dream slipping through her fingers. Each morning, as her mother sat silently at the booth, and her younger brother, Ethan, railed against a changed world, Jamie's resolve wavered. The diner, once alive with community spirit, was now mostly shadows and whispers of what could have been. As Jamie poured cups of coffee, she stumbled upon her father's old journals tucked beneath the counter. Curious, she opened the first page. The familiar scratch of his pen came alive in her hands. "Resilience is knowing that struggles are only temporary." The words ignited something in her, a flicker of optimism, a reminder that they were still here and that their community was still worth fighting for. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, as the townsfolk gathered for a makeshift potluck to support a struggling neighbor, Jamie realized the struggle was shared. But inside her home, the air crackled with tension. Her mother's frustration clashed with Jamie's determination. "We can't live on memories, Jamie," her mother said, her voice rising. "Your father's gone. It's time for a new start." In that moment, Jamie felt a heart-wrenching twist. She wanted to cling to the past and forge a new path at the same time. The diner buzzed with energy, excitement rising as Jamie proposed community nights and a menu update that honored her father's recipes while embracing new flavors. But just as they began to feel hope, a rival from the past threw a wrench into their plans. Sabotaged overnight, the diner's future loomed dark and uncertain. With tears in her eyes, Jamie stood at the counter, heart racing like the cars at the nearby fair. She was tired, worn down, but her father's journal lay open beside her, urging her forward. The lesson clicked in place: her family needed to unify, and so did the town. In this fractured moment, would she let grief consume her, or fight for the legacy her father left behind? As the sun set, casting golden light on the diner, Jamie was more certain than ever: their survival depended on love for one another, a shared dream that would take root if she only chose to lean into the darkness together. But could she break the cycle of mistrust and loss? The answer stirred in her heart, just as the quiet hum of hope grew, waiting to be unleashed. The next morning dawned with a hue of gray sky, an echo of the uncertainty that occupied Jamie's heart. She entered the diner, a bit worn but resolute. The smell of breakfast filled the air, blending with the faint scent of hope. As she set about her usual routine, the clatter of dishes and the sizzling of sausages felt oddly comforting. Each sound was like a beat of a pulse, bringing the diner back to life. Ethan was already seated at the counter, his expression a mix of anger and confusion. "Why aren't we fighting back, Jamie?" he asked, his voice rising like the steam from the coffee pot. "We can't just let them ruin everything Dad built." She watched her younger brother, his eyes fierce like her father's. In that moment, she realized he was ready to jump into the fray, to stand up for their legacy. "I know, Ethan. But we need a plan," Jamie replied, her voice soft yet firm. A flicker of excitement danced in her chest as a strategy began to form. If they confronted their rival directly, they might just stand a chance, a united front against a darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. As the day unfolded, townsfolk trickled into the diner. Some faces bore the marks of worry, while others held sympathy. Jamie greeted them with warmth, but she felt the weight of their expectations all around her. It wasn't just her father's legacy that rested on her shoulders, it was the spirit of the community. While pouring cups of coffee, they shared stories of resilience. One elderly woman spoke of disaster, how she had rebuilt not just her home, but her very essence after the town's flood years ago. Tales like that drew Jamie in, fueling her determination. They were all in this together, just like her dad had always believed. Later that afternoon, Jamie gathered her mother, Ethan, and their closest friends in the diner's back room. With the weight of 1,000 emotions brewing in her chest, she laid out the plan. "We have to rally the town," she affirmed. "Everyone's struggling. If we can unite them under the banner of the diner, remind them of what matters, we can fight back. We'll hold an event, something unforgettable, a community night that showcases everything we treasure." Her mother's brow furrowed, but Jamie pressed on. "This is our chance. A night of food, music, and shared stories. Something that not only honors Dad but brings us all back together. We can't lose sight of what he stood for." Slowly, her mother's expression shifted, a small spark igniting in her tired eyes. "All right, I'll help. But you need to promise we'll be careful." Ethan's cheer broke the tension. "Finally. Let us show that rival who's boss." His enthusiasm was infectious, spreading through the group like wildfire. As plans began to take shape, Jamie felt a surge of renewal. They weren't just saving a diner, they were nurturing their community's heartbeat. Days turned into frantic prep, filled with laughter and stirring memories. Posters went up, and local musicians offered to play for free. Week after week, their resolve grew stronger, and so did the interest from townspeople. Hope was no longer just a flicker, it was blazing bright. As the night of the event approached, Jamie couldn't shake a nagging worry. In the back of her mind, the rival's threats loomed large. What if it wasn't enough? Could their rekindled spirit withstand the storm that might come? Standing in front of the diner, Jamie looked at the crowd gathering outside, their faces glowing with expectation. She inhaled deeply, determined to seize this moment, and swept her gaze at the stars beginning to twinkle above. But beneath the hum of excitement, she felt an undercurrent of fear. What would happen if the reality they faced was darker than they could withstand? With her heart beating fast, Jamie whispered to herself, "This is for you, Dad." Whatever came next, she wouldn't back down. Yet, as the first notes filled the air, she couldn't ignore the feeling that thunderclouds were brewing on the horizon, waiting to strike when they least expected it. As the first chord reverberated through the diner, a ripple of excitement spread among the gathered crowd. Jamie felt the music wrap around her like a warm embrace, but even in the sweet strumming of guitars and soft laughter, the tension didn't fully dissipate. She handed out drinks, her smile unwavering, yet her heart raced with uncertainty. Ethan stood at the front, his youthful energy electrifying the room. He clapped his hands, urging the crowd to join him in a light-hearted chant. It started softly, but quickly built into a melody of laughter and shouts. Jamie couldn't help but smile. It was moments like these, the essence of community that her dad had cherished. But just then, the diner door swung open with a creak, cutting through the cheerful atmosphere like a knife. There he was, Luke, their rival. The man who had been a thorn in their side for too long, wearing a smug grin that made her stomach churn. Jamie's heart sank as she noticed the handful of men he had brought along. A few townsfolk shifted anxiously, uncertain of how to react. "Nice little gathering you've got here," Luke called out, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Thought I'd drop by to see the train wreck." He motioned to his companions, and they snickered, the laughter like gravel underfoot. Jamie's cheeks flushed, indignation flaring within her. How dare he? Ethan's shoulders squared, ready to confront the man who had threatened their family. "What do you want, Luke? This is our night. Get lost." His youthful defiance sparked murmurs in the crowd, but Jamie held Ethan back, squeezing his arm gently. "Let us not give him what he wants," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Stay focused." With every ounce of strength, she turned her back to Luke, channeling all her energy into the music that filled the air. But the unease lingered like a shadow, creeping into the smiles of her neighbors. Jamie could see the worry etched on their faces, and it broke her heart. Why couldn't they have just one moment of joy without the fear of what was to come? She had envisioned this night as a celebration of hope, a testament to everything they could achieve together. Yet, here was the embodiment of their struggle, standing right before them. "Hey! If you want to have a real party, why not come over to my place? I'll show you what a real night looks like." Luke's taunts hung in the air. The townspeople shifted, caught between their loyalty to Jamie and their own sense of self-preservation. Unexpectedly, a voice broke through the tension. "Why don't you take your invitation and shove it, Luke?" It was Mrs. Thatcher, a beloved octogenarian, who had lived in this town longer than anyone could remember. The crowd erupted into laughter, the sound washing over Jamie like a cleansing tide. Jamie felt a rush of gratitude for her community. Maybe they wouldn't allow fear to extinguish their spirit. The rhythm of hope pulsed through the diner once more, the camaraderie weaving a tapestry of strength around her. She stepped forward, raising her chin defiantly. "This is our home, our diner, and we are not afraid of you." As if on cue, a range of voices joined hers, echoing with conviction. "Not afraid." They shouted in unison, a collective heartbeat surging through the air. The power of their unity felt electric. But then, just as hope began to settle in her heart, gunfire crackled in the distance. A chilling reminder of the storm that loomed closer. Jamie's pulse quickened. This wasn't just about their diner anymore, it was about standing firm in the face of chaos. The crowd's jubilant cheers melted away into stunned silence. Jamie's heart raced as the realization hit her she had not just invited her community to a night of celebration but to the very edge of a confrontation with their worst fears. With her heart pounding, Jamie turned toward Ethan and whispered, "What do we do now?" As the night hung heavy in the air, storm clouds gathered, and Jamie knew that their fight was just beginning. The air was thick with anticipation and fear. Jamie's heart raced, thrumming in her chest like the rapid beat of a drum, drowning out the fading echoes of laughter. The room, once filled with light-hearted revelry, suddenly felt more like a ticking time bomb. In that moment, every eye turned toward the door. Luke's smug demeanor cast a long shadow over their resolve, and Jamie felt an almost palpable shift in the air. She could hear her own breath, shallow and quick, as she struggled to pull the focus back to their celebration, to combat the chilling hand of dread that clawed at her guts. "Everyone, listen." Jamie raised her voice, steadying herself as she looked around at her friends and neighbors. "We've come too far to let anyone ruin this night. This diner has always been a place of refuge. We're here to celebrate each other, to stand together, no matter what. We owe it to ourselves." A few faces brightened, their hope rekindled by her words, but the worry still lingered in the corners of the room. Ethan remained tense beside her, ready to defend their ground, but Jamie could sense that his fear mirrored her own. Then came the burst of gunfire again, a sharp crack that sliced through the diner and froze every soul inside. Gasps erupted, and some people recoiled, instinctively backing away towards the walls. Jamie's stomach dropped as the reality of the threat hit her hard. They were not just fighting for a night of music and memories, they were facing something darker, something that threatened to tear their community apart. "Don't move." Luke's voice rang out, sharp and commanding as he positioned himself in the doorway, flanked by his men. "You're all just a bunch of fools if you think you can have fun while the world burns around you." He chuckled, as if mocking their earlier resolve. Jamie's heart sank, he fed off the fear. But Mrs. Thatcher stood tall again, addressing Luke with fierce determination. "Those who stand together are never fools. You can't take our hope, you hear me?" The crowd slowly began to rally around her again, finding strength in their bonds. "Get inside. We need to close the doors." Someone shouted, urgency flooding the room. Jamie turned to Ethan, her eyes wide. We can't let them see us scared. We need to keep everyone together. As the diner's front door started to close, Jamie jumped back behind the counter, scrambling for anything to use as a makeshift barricade. They had to protect their sanctuary. Everyone, gather in close. Jamie called out, her voice steadier now. The townspeople rushed to her side, forming a protective huddle around the bar. She could feel the pulse of unity building among them. Then, in a surge of bravery, she looked Ethan in the eye. We can't let fear define us. Remember what Dad always said, together we are stronger. With every word, Jamie felt her heart lift slightly, a beacon in a dark storm. There was no turning back. As chaos threatened to overtake them, they found strength together. She glanced toward the door, where Luke and his friends loomed large and threatening. This isn't our end, we're going to fight back. But before Jamie could finish her rallying cry, another round of gunfire echoed loudly. The sound sent shivers down her spine, and she wondered, would their defiance be enough? In that instant, as the lights flickered and the tension mounted, a voice inside her whispered that this could be the moment that changed everything. But would it push them together or tear them apart? As Jamie stood there, breath held tight, she squared her shoulders, ready to face what was coming. What she didn't know was how far Luke was willing to go to shatter their community's spirit. Would they stand united, or would this be the moment that crushed them? The uncertainty hung heavy in the air, electrifying and terrifying. The dim light flickered more violently now, shadows dancing across the walls as if mirroring the turmoil brewing inside the diner. There was a collective gasp as they heard the crunch of footsteps outside. Jamie's heart dropped. Was this it? Were they going to be pushed beyond their limits? Stay together, Jamie shouted, though her voice quaked slightly, betraying her own fear. She moved closer to Ethan, her lifeline in the swell of panic. He nodded, steeling himself beside her, even a sweat beaded at his temples. They could hear Luke's mocking laughter ring out again, a sound that dripped with derision. You think a bunch of scared sheep can shield themselves from the wolves? His voice was laden with malice, each word calculated to sow discord. Jamie glanced at Mrs. Thatcher, who stood resolute in the thickening atmosphere. This woman had fought the demons of doubt for years, and her unwavering stance gave Jamie some courage. We won, back down, she cried, echoing Mrs. Thatcher's spirit. The townsfolk congregated closer, trembling but unwavering. Jamie could almost feel their collective heartbeat, the rhythm of defiance pulsing through the air like a battle drum. Suddenly, the diner door flung open with a force that sent a gust of cold air inside. And there he was, Luke, flanked by a handful of his men, guns at the ready. Jamie's throat tightened. You want your precious diner? Luke sneered, scanning the room. Then let us see if you can keep it with that. He threw a small object into the diner. It hit the floor with a clatter and emitted a flash followed by a deafening boom of flashbang. The room erupted into chaos. Jamie's ears rang, her heart racing faster than she could breathe. Lights dimmed momentarily as her vision blurred. People screamed, surging in a frenzied wave, pushing against one another as they sought safety. But when the world silenced again, Jamie found herself still standing, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Don't let them scatter, Ethan yelled, pulling Jamie back toward the huddle. Get everyone together. We can't allow them to divide us. Everyone was in a frenzy, but slowly, Jamie felt the pull of unity drawing them back. They weren't just a crowd anymore, they were a community willing to fight for what they'd built together. Jamie scanned the room, looking into her neighbor's wild eyes. Fear was tangible, but so was resolve. I need to get to the phone, Lou shouted, determination sparking in his eyes as he pushed through the crowd. He clutched a small brick from the demolished wall, the symbol of their fight. No, Jamie called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. If Luke takes you out, we'll lose that strength. We need to protect one another first. Just then, the door burst open again and one of Luke's men shoved a makeshift weapon forward. You really want to play a game, huh? Let us see how tough you are. With a burst of courage she didn't know she had, Jamie stepped forward, her heart pounding. You think we're afraid of you? She met the gaze of the intruder, feeling a flush of fire igniting inside her. We're not going to let you destroy us. The energy in the diner shifted. Eyes widened, glances exchanged. She saw the shift as they felt her courage like a jolt of electricity. Maybe it's time to show them exactly who they're messing with. Ethan shouted, rallying at her side, the tension now crackling with volatile defiance. Jamie took a deep breath, her hands trembling but steady. They were all standing there, ready to defy the storm. But in that moment, one question lingered: would it be enough to face the wrath of Luke and his men, or would they suffer the catastrophic fallout of their bravery? As the door hung ominously ajar, the stakes had never felt so real. What choice would they make in the face of overwhelming fear? The tension in the diner thickened like molasses, each second stretching out in a way that felt almost unbearable. Jamie held her breath, locked in a staring contest with the man who dared to threaten their haven. Deep down, she knew his threats were just bluster, but the danger shone like a spotlight. Who us first? The intruder taunted, waving his weapon around carelessly. His smirk was unsettling, a wolf-esque grin, and that only fueled Jamie's anger. Enough! Mrs. Thatcher's voice rang out, stronger than Jamie had ever heard. She moved forward, shaking but resolute. You don't belong here. You think you can walk in and take what's ours? Our home? You're mistaken. The astonishment was palpable in the crowd. What moments ago felt like a tide of despair transformed into sturdy ground beneath their feet. Mrs. Thatcher's strength was infectious. Why, I'll remember the time when Luke and his gang tried to bully Mike off his farm. Ethan broke in, his voice steady. Look at us here. We stuck together then, we can do it again. Some of the townsfolk murmured, their resolve hardening like steel. Jamie felt that pulse, that rhythm of defiance begin to ignite anew. It connected them, binding them closer as they fought side by side. Yeah. Remember the storm last summer? Lou shouted from the side, the brick in his hand now raised high like a battle flag. That tree almost crushed us. But we didn't back down. A single spark ignited a fire within them, rising from their shared memories of hardship and triumph. Jamie could see the flickers of courage lighting up faces around her, the true spirit of their community coming alive. Let us show them what we've built, Ethan urged, and Jamie could feel her heart sink with his words. Then, a slow clap echoed through the chaos as Luke continued to gauge their spirit. Cute little rally you've got going, he mused. But how far will it take you? Are you really willing to get hurt for a diner? There it was, the ultimatum. Jamie stepped forward again, her voice steady despite her racing heart. For this diner? For each other? Absolutely. Gasps followed her words, but she stood tall, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on her. Luke faltered for a moment, caught off guard by her unexpected bravery. He hadn't expected this, a united front against his intimidation. Back down now, and you can leave without repercussions, Luke hissed, trying to regain control. No. Ethan stepped into the space between Jamie and Luke. You can't threaten us, not anymore. You think we're scared? You don't know what it means to fight for something you love. You're nothing. The crowd surged forward, drivers of momentum, emboldened. But Jamie felt the air shift again, the smell of sweat mixed with fear becoming nearly suffocating. She sensed that the window of resolve was precarious. They had to decide fast before the tide turned again. Are we ready to hold our ground? She yelled, raising her voice above the commotion. Hope surged within her as she saw nods ripple through the faces surrounding her. They could feel their hearts beating in unison. For the first time, Jamie saw not just fear, but determination glistening in their eyes. It was time to redefine everything, to take a stand against the storm. But Luke's men shifted uneasily, the gang's bravado starting to crack. Lou stepped forward, ready to defend, but Jamie caught his eye and snapped her fingers. No one should be alone. This was their fight. Suddenly, the front door swung wide, and Jamie's breath caught in her throat. Another figure emerged from the shadows, driven by an unknown purpose. Who could that be? Was it friend or foe? As her heart raced, Jamie felt the weight of this new arrival shift the very air in the diner. Would they help strengthen their resolve, or tip the scale further into chaos? The answer loomed just a heartbeat away. The figure stepped into the diner, and the atmosphere crackled like static electricity. Jamie blinked, trying to make sense of the silhouette against the harsh diner lights. It was someone she recognized, but her heart felt heavy as she sank deeper. "Danny?" she whispered, disbelief washing over her. He looked older than she remembered. His face was drawn, eyes shadowed and weary. Yet, he walked with a fierce determination that made some folks step back. Luke's arrogance faltered just a bit, his surprise unmistakable. "What are you doing here?" Jamie's voice shook, tinted with confusion and hope. "Been hearing things," Danny replied, his voice like gravel. "Thought you might need some help." He stepped closer, scanning the crowd, taking in the tense faces but lingering on Jamie. "Looks like you've got this under control though." His words hung for a moment. The crowd shifted, uncertainty rippling through them. In that moment of stillness, Jamie felt the combined weight of their urgency. She had a horror of this crossing her mind. Was this the cavalry coming in? Or a distraction that would lead their unity all astray? Luke scoffed, eyes narrowing. "And who's this? Another loser?" He waved his weapon dismissively in Danny's direction. "You think you can change the odds here?" Danny shifted his stance, dropping to a more cautious position. "It's not about odds. It's about standing firm." His gaze swept over the diners, firm yet complex, inviting a sense of solidarity. "And you mistake our resolve for weakness." Ethan stepped forward, emboldened by Danny's arrival. "That's right. You have no idea what we're made of." His voice rang out strong and clear, cutting through Luke's bravado. The energy shifted again. Jamie felt her breath hitch as hope flickered light in her heart. Danny was here. He was a part of them, a piece of their patchwork community that had once rallied during their darkest moments. But Luke wasn't he done? "You think words will save you? This is about survival," he taunted, holding the gun tight. "You're nothing without your fear." "I can feel it." "Then you don't know us at all," Jamie shot back, stepping forward beside Danny and Ethan, her voice rising in passion. "We've survived worse than corporate thugs with weapons." The cheer that erupted from the crowd felt electric, a lifeline thrown, pulling them closer together. Yet doubt clawed at the edges of her mind. Would bravery be enough this time? She could see the fear creeping back into some of the townsfolk. The weight of uncertainty pressed down, yet she fought to maintain the fragile resolve building in the diner. As tension twisted the air, Danny met Jamie's gaze, and in that split second they shared a moment of understanding. They were in this together, fighting not just for a diner, but for everything they cherished. "Are you ready to stand?" he asked quietly, and Jamie nodded, feeling the fire within her igniting stronger and brighter. Before any more words could spill over, a loud crash came from the back of the diner. Everyone turned, eyes wide, as the back door fell open, and a second burst of bodies spilled in, each one brandishing familiar faces from the community. "Let us finish this!" shouted Rebecca, her fists raised high, determination blazing like a wildfire through the door. The surge of solidarity sent a shiver of excitement through Jamie. But as she faced Luke again, she knew they were about to step into the heart of chaos. Would their resolve hold against the storm brewing? Or would this newfound unity shatter under pressure? The moment was thick with expectation. They were on the edge of something monumental, and Jamie couldn't shake the knowledge that soon, everything would change. The air in the diner pulsed with renewed energy as Rebecca and the others gathered around Jamie and Danny. It was as if a storm had stirred to life. The strong sense of community flickered like the neon lights above them, bright and full of promise. "Where's the backup?" Danny asked, glancing toward Rebecca. Her expression remained fierce, compensating for any part of her that wavered. "Everyone's out there, rallying support. We're not letting them take what's ours," she said, fire glinting in her eyes. Luke's attention narrowed on the group. "More of you?" Great. Just what I needed, a pity party. He chuckled darkly, lifting his gun for the second round. You think this is gonna change the outcome? Jamie held her breath, steadfast. What you don't get, Luke, is that we're more than just names on a chalkboard. We're tied together, whether you like it or not. And that bond is our strength. This isn't a group hug, sweetheart, he replied, sarcasm dripped from his voice like venom. But Jamie didn't flinch. The fear of the unknown lingered, twisting slightly in her gut, yet she felt buoyed by the bravery of her friends who were ready to fight for each other, just like Danny had once fought for her. Get ready! Came a voice from the back of the diner. It was Caleb, a younger member of the community, stepping forward, looking more confident than she had ever seen him. Let us show them what we're made of. The collective determination in the space surged like a cold breeze, settling over everyone like an encouragement. Jamie locked eyes with Danny and Rebecca, ready to face whatever storm came next. Push forward! Danny shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. Together, they inched closer to Luke and his followers, a wall of strength resisting the pressure that threatened to break them apart. I'll show you how strong you really are, Luke snarled, aiming his gun at Danny. Without thinking, Jamie stepped in front of him, arms raised, heart racing. Wait! She called out, the desperation twisting the air. We don't want violence. This is about survival. We can talk this through. Danny put a hand on her shoulder, grounding her with his presence. You think we'll just let you take what's not yours? Danny's voice was steady, unyielding. You've crossed a line, and no amount of bravado will shield you from the truth of that. The standoff hung heavy, breaths caught in throats, hearts pounding in sync. Jamie could see the wavering of some bystanders' glances exchanged, doubts whispered. Luke was a bully, and bullies thrived on fear. And then it came, a frantic shout outside. A voice familiar, a mixture of pain and urgency. They're coming! The words shattered the moment, sending a ripple of alarm through the diner. Jamie's stomach churned. She turned her head slightly toward the door, dread pooling within. What did that mean? Watch your back! Someone yelled, and when it hit her, this wasn't just about them standing against Luke anymore. This was a fight for everything they held dear. Together, Jamie breathed, feeling the heat of their united front. Together. Danny echoed, squeezing her shoulder. As fear and courage intertwined, the door burst open wider, revealing silhouettes of figures emerging from shadows, their intentions unclear. They flooded into the diner, and Jamie's heart raced with an exhilarating blend of panic and camaraderie. But just as they steeled themselves, an ominous silence filled the room, a palpable hesitation lingering before chaos erupted fully. What had they unleashed? And would they be ready for the battle that was about to unfold? The silence that settled over the diner was thick, like a heavy fog pressing down around them. Jamie's heart thudded in her chest, a relentless drumbeat echoing the uncertainty that engulfed them. Faces in the crowd shifted between fear and determination, and she could feel the weight of their shared resolve. The newcomers stepped further inside, their faces illuminated by the flickering diner lights. Jamie squinted, trying to make sense of their expressions. Were they allies? Or were they part of the storm that Luke had promised? Caleb stood beside her, trembling slightly but still planted firmly where he was. The spirit he had shown moments ago seemed to falter. What do we do now? He murmured, his voice barely audible over the gathering tension. Together, Jamie whispered, her gaze darting between Luke and the newcomers, unsure of what would happen next. The figures in the doorway shifted, stepping into the light. They weren't armed, not like Luke's group. Instead, they were holding tools, shovels, picks, tarps. It seemed surreal, and for a moment, Jamie wasn't sure what to make of it. One of them, a woman with fiery red hair and a determined expression, stepped forward. We heard what's been happening, she said, her voice steady. We're here to help. Confusion swirled in the air. Help? How? Danny shot back, skepticism etched on his face. We want to let them take your land. We've fought against all odds before. We're here because we believe in what this community stands for, she replied, sweeping her arms wide as if to embrace them all. The collective inhale of the diner was almost thunderous. Hope trickled in, fragile but undeniable. Jamie felt at ease the knot in her stomach. This was what they had needed, an infusion of strength alongside the fiery spirit of their community. That's right. Another voice called out from the back. Sam, an older gentleman with a gruff exterior but a heart of gold. We're not here to battle among ourselves, but to fight back against those who would take what's ours. Luke scoffed, disbelief twisting his features. And you think this is enough? You're dreaming. But the diner, once filled with fear and uncertainty, now buzzed with something electric. People began to gather close, their focus shifting from despair to action. We're not just fighting for land or property. We're fighting for our lives, our homes. Jamie shouted, her voice rising above the murmurs. Together, we can make a stand. Together, we can protect what we've built. She felt Danny's presence beside her, strong, unyielding. He squeezed her shoulder again, his warmth a reminder that they were not alone in this fight. The fear in her heart gave way to something steadier, resolve. Caleb, emboldened by Jamie's words, shouted, "Let us show them what we're made of." With that, a surge of energy pulsed through the diner. More voices joined in, promises of support and solidarity ringing through the air. Luke, caught off guard, shifted his focus, the brash confidence beginning to falter. "Shooting your mouth off won't help you now, Luke." A familiar voice called from the back. It was Rebecca, her fierceness shining through. "This is our home, and we will protect it." The moment stretched, the air thick with defiance. Jamie could see the turning tide in the crowd. They were ready to face whatever storm lay ahead. And just when they thought they had everything set for the battle, the diner's phone rang. A shrill tone that sliced through the charged atmosphere, making everyone jump. Jamie eyed the phone, heart racing. What new twist awaited them now? Would it be the call that changed everything, or just a distraction pulling them away from the battle at hand? The stakes suddenly felt higher than ever. What awaited them on the other end of that line could shatter their unity or seal their fate. Before anyone could take a breath, Jamie rushed to answer the phone, fingers trembling as she grasped the receiver. Hope battled with trepidation in her heart. "Hello?" A familiar voice echoed on the other end, Mayor Thompson. She could hardly contain her excitement mixed with a touch of fear. "Jamie, thank goodness I got through. We heard what's happening at the diner. I'm rallying support. We can't let Luke and his gang take what's ours. We need to unite our efforts right now." Joy surged through her. "Mayor, we need every hand we can get. It's more than just about us. It's about our community. I'll bring everyone I can. Stand your ground. We're coming for you." He hung up, and with it, a spark of hope ignited in her chest. "More support is on the way," Jamie shouted, spinning to face the crowd. "The mayor is bringing people together. We're not alone in this fight." A roar of determination erupted in the diner, the faces of her neighbors lighting up with a renewed spirit. Fear morphed into resolve, and their energy felt electric, humming with excitement. Luke's bravado cracked, confusion registering across his face. "You think you can just call in backup?" But Jamie interrupted him, her voice booming above the whispers of the crowd. "We don't need to fight among ourselves. We're standing together, united against anyone who tries to tear our community apart." Ethan, empowered by his sister's newfound strength, stepped beside her. "None of us are backing down. This diner is our heart, and so is this community." As the diner's hope surged, another voice called from the back, Rebecca, a beacon of strength. "Let us show him what we stand for. Everyone let us gear up." People began grabbing tools, wooden boards, anything they could find to defend themselves. Jamie's heart raced, a swirling mix of fear and hope flooding her chest. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting a fierce desire to protect everything they held dear. Outside, a wave of voices began to swell, growing closer. The mayor was leading a crowd, their sheer numbers promised strength. From where Jamie stood, the reality of their unity washed over her like a wave of warmth. It was palpable, like sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. Then out of the blue a crash. The door swung wide open again, revealing the mayor and a throng of townsfolk, armed with shovels, bats, and hearts full of courage. "We're here. What do you need?" he shouted, eyes flaring with determination. "Stand firm," Jamie called, her voice lifting above the cacophony. "We're getting our diner back and fighting for our home. It's time to unite and show Luke once and for all that they can't break us." With their newfound strength, the crowd gathered closer, their solidarity undeniable. The spirit of community wove a tapestry more robust than any single person could ever create. Jamie felt the weight of hope lift from her shoulders, replaced with a fervent belief that they could weather any storm together. Luke's men stared, confidence draining from their faces as they looked around at the united force taking shape before them. They were no longer facing a handful of scared townsfolk, they were met with a tide of strength, passion, and unity. Jamie took a step forward, chest swelling with pride as she raised her fist. "This is our charge. Let us take this fight to them and reclaim everything that belongs to us." The crowd roared in response. "Together!" they shouted, the word echoing off the diner's walls and swelling with strength. With that, the townsfolk surged forward, a sea of prepared hearts determined to oust the chaos that had stirred within their midst. As they faced Luke and his band of thugs, Jamie knew they would create a moment that would change everything. The battle was just beginning, but the heart of their community beat like a drum, steady and unyielding. She took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of everyone around her, and realized this wasn't just a fight for a diner or a legacy, it was a stand for family, hope, and love. As the first strike echoed, Jamie smiled, her heart full. They would face whatever came next, together. This was their moment. As they took their stand, remember, join this community, support each other. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next chapter in this inspiring journey. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. I want to hear your voices. Comment your reactions and feelings about this epic showdown. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can make a difference.